Hello and welcome to Bobeats and this Digitakt video. In this video we are going to look at how I went from a couple of one-shot samples from the Moog Mother 32 that I sampled into the Digitakt and made this kind of epic synth tune. So I'm just going to play you a short jam that I did with it and then explain pretty much what went into the process and how I made this little song. So as you could hear, the Digitakt is a lot more than just a drum machine. It's a sample player, it's a sampler, it's also a synthesizer in some ways, and I just want to go over some of the sounds that I used in this jam and explain a little bit what is going on to give you guys an idea of the power of the Digitakt as well as how you can do certain things. So one of the first sounds I want to show you is this one. So as you could hear, this is a percussive sound, and it's actually a finger cymbal, and I think this finger cymbal is one of the stock samples that you get with the Digitakt, and there is not that much going on with this sound in particular. It's played pretty much as is, but with some added filter envelope, as well as a very short hold and decay. So if I just turn the hold and decay up, you will hear that it's really a finger cymbal that is playing here, but I've just shortened it down a lot. And of course I've added some reverb and delay on this sound as well. And the the LFO here is sent to the pan. That's why you can hear that the sound bounces from one side to another. All the synth sounds that I use in this song are samples from the Mother 32, but as you will see, there's really not that much left from the sample itself, because I made so many changes to it. So the first sound is this one. And double pressing the stop button here makes it so it cuts off the sound, so it doesn't, because this is a kind of an endless sound, it would go forever. And this is actually based, if I press source here, you can see sample, I use sample 75, and the sample here is called Mother 32 C9, and let's see if we can listen to it. Yeah, this is what it sounds like without any effects. And this is what it sounds like with effects. So how do you create such a sound? Well, the first thing I did was I double pressed the source, or press the source button here. You just need to press it once, and you can see you get this little menu here with a waveform. And then I just manipulated the, I'm just going to save the pattern here, pattern saved. I just manipulated the length of the note. So basically if I turn up the length, when I was turning the knob here, you could hear a big difference to the sound, and as you can see, this is the entire waveform is quite long, because it's a long sampled C note, but I just use a little part of it. So let's reload pattern, and it's a very short part, very short, and I'm not sure if the camera picks it up, but as you can see, it moves here. And it creates this very short note that is played. And in order to make it repeat, you just go into the source here, and you choose, using this button here, B, you choose forward loop, FWD.L, forward loop. You can also do it backwards. So now it's backwards, but I'm not really sure if it doesn't really make that big a difference. With such a short note, it shouldn't make a huge difference. It's more if you have a longer note that makes more of a difference. So that way, when you pick just a very short sample and you use the loop function, you get a drawn out sound. And then of course in the amp page, I made sure that the decay and hold was set, they're actually set to infinite, or at least the hold value, no, the decay value is set to infinite, and the hold time is set to note. So I guess that just reflects that it depends on how long the note is. And then of course I added reverb and delay and some overdrive as well. And another thing here is I used the LFO here. It's a pretty short LFO. The multiplier here set to BPM 4. The speed set to about 4. And just a little bit of depth, and it's set to the filter frequency, and the filter frequency also is also affected by the amp envelope over here, with a very long attack, a pretty long decay, and a bit shorter sustain and release, and this kind of creates a movement within the sound. And I think together with the delay, it creates it's a simple but fun sound. So let's go over to sample number 3. It's the same over here. It's a very short, if we check source here, it's a very short, it's a long sample, but it's it's been trimmed down to a very short sample. It's been tuned. So I'm using the tuning here under source to tune it. It's also looped, so that makes a big difference. And the LFO here is actually set to bitrate instead. So it and the depth is almost maxed out. So it's set to bit reduction. So it will impact the bit reduction of the sound. And one thing here is I use a very high multiplier, 1K, and a very high speed. And this is what creates this kind of, I think you could call it, it goes into audio rate. So if we listen to this note, for example, it's very noticeable. So as you can hear, there's like layers of tonality to the sound. It's because of the LFO. If we turn down the LFO, you can probably hear the difference there. It's a pretty big difference, noticeable one. And yeah, the amp envelope is pretty much the same, and the filter is kind of similar, even though I tweaked rather into the negative side of things. What else can I tell you about this sound? Yeah, the sound itself, it's sample 79, and sample 79, let's see here if we can check it out. Sample 79 actually sounds like this. So that's the raw sound that I'm using. And I turned it into something that sounds like this. And of course this sound has a more wobbly feel to it. And you could probably smoothen it out even more. The LFO is quite noticeable in the sound, and you can probably smooth it out as well. But I thought it sounded pretty good. So what about the lead sound? Well, it's on track number 4. We can always use track and then the number here in order to choose a track without actually triggering a note. As you can hear, this is a more drawn out sound, and if we look at the amp envelope, you can see that the decay and hold, well, at least the decay is, and it's not an infinite. It's not a drone type sound. And if we look at source here, you can see that yeah, I do have it on loop as well, and it is a shorter note as well, but with the decay set to about 12 o'clock, you don't get this infinite kind of sound. It makes for a lead sound. Now let me just show you what the sample sounds like that I'm using. I'm using sample 77 here. It sounds like this. And this is kind of wild, because here I'm actually using a very short sample from the Mother 32 in order to create what is a more drawn out sound. And it's because I have a very short sample, a short snippet of the sample loaded, and it's set to loop, but I've turned down the decay. And LFO here is actually sent to the amp volume, and that impacts the volume, of course, over time as for example you're playing or you have a sequence playing. It's a kind of quick way to create some dynamic variance to a sound. And of course, this sound wasn't tuned very much. Usually you have to tune when you use very short samples. You kind of need to tune them, but I didn't have to in this case. I think I just cut out a piece of the sample that worked pretty well. And lastly, we have the percussive elements. So we had channel number 1 here with this kind of finger snapping cymbal thingy. I don't know what to call it really. And then we have channel number 5 here with this sound. And I'm not sure really what kind of sample it is. Yeah, it's a, I don't know if it's kind of a cowbell or something. I'm not really sure. Let's see here. Number 11. Yeah, I'm not sure what to call it. You can probably leave a comment in the comment section, tell me what kind of sound it is. I can't really describe it. But on channel number 6 here, we have the kick. But I've also programmed in a number of different sounds. So let me mute everything except channel number 6, and you can hear what's going on with the drums. So as you can hear, it's not that exciting, and on the different pattern here I have a different loop playing as well. Let's go here. But I kind of thought that this kind of simple loop worked really well for this kind of song, because it's not really drum driven, and I really enjoy using. This is just one track with some effects on it and some different parameter lockings to making everything work. And you can also hear that there's some those kind of filler type sounds or rolls that I do with the retrig. You just press a step here and you press upwards arrow to enable the retrig values. So I think it's simple, but it's functional. So I hope you like this little jam that I did, and this little rundown or kind of tutorial on how to do it. And I think it kind of shows you that you can load one-shot samples into the Digitakt, but you can also cut those samples up or use parts of those samples in a different way. As you could hear, there were totally different sounds coming out of the Digitakt if you compare the samples compared to the kind of sounds that I was making. If we just go back here and check this first sound here, and when we compare it to the sample that I'm actually using here, the sample here, yeah, a huge difference in what you can do. And of course I'm just scratching the surface of the Digitakt here, so I think you can, or a Digitakt, so I think you can imagine that you can do some really cool stuff. So as you can hear, I'm excited about this toy. It's really fun. I love it. I intentionally called it a toy because I've had so much fun with it. It's very nice to sit down, and it's a synthesizer, it's a sampler, it's a drum machine, and it's, you know, it's kind of a groove box. But of course you have to make it your own. You can't just open the box up and expect it to deliver everything you've ever wanted from the get-go. You have to make it your own. You have to really get into the different settings. And it's just like with the Octatrack or analog rhythm or analog 4 or keys, that the more you work with it, the more you make it your own and the more fun you have with it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to slap that like on it. It really helps me out, it helps the channel, it helps me understand if you like my content or not. And if you want to know more about the Digitakt, just leave a comment and I'll try to answer them in the comment sections or with a new video. So this was Bo from Bobeats, and I hope you have a very pleasant day. Thank you so much.